Of the 40,000 men who served aboard German U-boats during the two world wars, more than 30,000 never returned home. In their grim pursuit beneath the Atlantic waves, these stealthy hunters sank over 2,700 Allied vessels, inflicting thousands of casualties and instilling relentless fear among sailors. This narrative uncovers the terrifying world of German U-boats, deadly underwater predators responsible for shaping modern naval warfare. Serving on a U-boat was among the most perilous and horrifying duties imaginable, fraught with danger and uncertainty at every turn. This story begins long before their infamous reign of terror in the Atlantic, tracing back to humble origins and an audacious dream to rule beneath the waves. Humble beginnings. Germany's journey to submarine dominance began modestly in 1850 with Wilhelm Bauer's ambitious design of the first German submersible. Unfortunately, Bauer's initial trial ended disastrously when his prototype sank almost immediately. Miraculously, Bauer and his two crewmen narrowly escaped drowning. Yet rather than halting progress, this incident fueled continued experiments. The modern German submarine, or U-boat, Unterseeboot, emerged in the early 1900s as a strategic tool against Britain's overwhelming naval strength. Recognizing that building expensive battleships was financially unfeasible, Germany shifted toward a stealthier, cost-effective naval strategy, targeting enemy commercial shipping. This marked the beginning of submarine warfare, a revolutionary approach destined to reshape global naval tactics permanently. World War I early days. By World War I, Germany had constructed 28 operational U-boats prepared for battle. Their deadly potential was soon dramatically demonstrated when, just weeks into the conflict, U-9 sank 3 British cruisers within a single hour, killing over 1,400 sailors. This stunning feat radically altered naval warfare, proving submarines as formidable weapons of destruction. Yet these early U-boats were technologically limited, functioning primarily as surface vessels capable only of brief, tactical submersion. Diesel engines propelled them on the surface and charged batteries for short, stealthy underwater operations. Submerged, they were restricted by slow speeds and limited endurance, forced to resurface frequently, and thereby exposing themselves to detection and attack. Initially, German submarine commanders followed prize rules, politely halting merchant ships to allow cruise evacuation before sinking them. However, such courteous warfare rapidly vanished after Britain introduced deceptive Q-ships, armed merchant vessels disguised as harmless targets, leading submarine captains to adopt harsher, more ruthless tactics. Soon, the rules of engagement dissolved into unrestricted submarine warfare, setting the stage for unprecedented naval carnage. Unrestricted warfare. The shift to unrestricted submarine warfare marked a dark turning point. U-boats began attacking any vessel without warning, disregarding previous norms of naval conduct. This ruthless strategy culminated in the infamous sinking of the passenger liner RMS Lusitania by U-20 in May 1915, claiming 1,198 lives, including 128 Americans. The international outrage significantly influenced the United States' decision to enter the war, ultimately tipping the balance against Germany. Although U-boats achieved considerable tactical successes, sinking over 5,000 ships during World War I, they paid a steep price. 178 submarines were lost and nearly 5,000 submariners perished. Nevertheless, these losses represented just the prelude to a far more devastating chapter in submarine warfare, soon to unfold on an unprecedented scale. Versailles and rebirth. Following Germany's defeat in World War I, the Treaty of Versailles explicitly banned the construction and operation of submarines. Unwilling to abandon their underwater ambitions, German naval engineers discreetly continued development abroad, establishing design offices in neutral countries to circumvent treaty restrictions. These secretive activities enabled the refinement of submarine technology. By 1935, Adolf Hitler openly defied the treaty, announcing Germany's intention to rebuild its military might. Meanwhile, Admiral Karl Dönitz formulated groundbreaking tactics that would become central to German naval strategy during World War II, the Wolfpack method. Rather than operating independently, groups of U-boats coordinated attacks against merchant convoys, overwhelming escort vessels, and maximizing their destructive potential. Germany's submarine force was reborn, more lethal and determined than ever. World War II Wolfpack tactics. With the outbreak of World War II, German submarine warfare escalated significantly, spearheaded by Admiral Dönitz's revolutionary Wolfpack tactics. These groups of submarines systematically hunted merchant convoys, communicating and coordinating attacks to overpower defensive measures. Central to these operations was the Type 7 U-boat, a formidable vessel capable of traveling 8,500 nautical miles without refueling and diving to emergency depths of around 750 feet, though typically operating at safer depths between 300 and 500 feet. Early U-boats faced considerable structural vulnerabilities, experiencing alarming creaks and leaks under the immense pressure of deep water dives. Despite these risks, the Wolfpack strategy inflicted devastating losses on Allied shipping, targeting supply lines vital to Britain's survival. The goal was clear and ruthless: disrupt the flow of food, fuel, weapons and troops, strangling Britain's resources and morale to force surrender without the necessity of direct invasion. This deadly efficiency ushered in a brutal new era of naval warfare, turning the Atlantic into a perilous battleground. Early World War II attacks. As World War II erupted, German U-boats swiftly demonstrated their deadly intent. Within hours of Britain declaring war, U-30 torpedoed the civilian liner SS Athenia, killing over 100 people. Although Germany claimed it was accidental, the chilling message was clear: no vessel was safe. Initially, the Royal Navy underestimated the threat posed by U-boats, believing that convoys, sonar and depth charges offered sufficient protection. However, they quickly realized their error as coordinated, stealthy and precise U-boat attacks sank dozens of merchant ships by the end of 1939. Fear gripped sailors, knowing that each voyage across the Atlantic could end tragically. U-boats meticulously tracked convoys, surfacing at night to exploit superior speeds and accuracy. Equipped with deck guns and guided by precise manual calculations, they launched torpedoes with terrifying effectiveness. Entire convoys disappeared beneath the waves, leaving survivors adrift, desperately hoping for rescue. By 1941, the U-boat menace escalated from mere nuisance to crisis, threatening Britain's essential lifeline and its ability to sustain the war effort. Life aboard a U-boat. Life aboard a German U-boat was not only dangerous, it was a test of physical and psychological endurance. Crews of about 50 men were confined in less than 50 cubic meters of habitable space, living elbow to elbow among machinery, weapons and torpedoes. Privacy was non-existent. Bunks were shared in shifts, a practice called hot bunking, and only the captain had a small private cabin, little more than a closet. Missions often lasted up to 12 weeks, and conditions rapidly deteriorated. Fresh food lasted only a few days. After that, meals were limited to hard biscuits, canned meat, and dry goods. Fresh water was strictly rationed, roughly 2 gallons per man per day, so bathing was almost entirely foregone. Over time, poor hygiene and humidity led to skin infections nicknamed U-boat rot. The air grew foul quickly. Early submarines lacked proper purification systems, and after 24 hours submerged, headaches and nausea were common. Crews endured unbearable smells and claustrophobic quarters, knowing every dive might be their last. Mental strain was relentless. Every sonar ping, every depth charge, every creak of the hull could mean death was moments away. The physical misery, combined with the constant threat of catastrophic failure or attack, made service on a U-boat among the most grueling roles in any military theater of war. Combat dangers and mechanical failure. Beneath the ocean's surface, U-boat crews faced more than enemy fire. They lived under the constant threat of mechanical failure and terrifying underwater hazards. One of the most feared scenarios was the uncontrolled dive, or death dive. If a submarine's depth control systems were damaged or malfunctioned, the vessel could descend past its safe operational limit. Pressure would increase rapidly with depth, and once the hull failed, it would implode instantly, flattening the vessel and crew in milliseconds. Even worse, some U-boats sank in shallower waters without being crushed, leaving crews alive but trapped on the seafloor. In these cases, suffocation or slow flooding became the grim reality. Fires presented another lethal risk, especially with fuel, torpedoes, and batteries packed into tight quarters. A single spark could turn a U-boat into a steel tomb. During depth charge attacks, crews would hear sonar pings followed by eerie silence, then the thunder of explosions. The fear was palpable. A near miss could rupture a hull or force a U-boat to surface, where enemy ships or aircraft often waited. Every mission was a game of survival, played in near darkness, blind silence, and constant dread. These dangers made U-boat duty not only hazardous, but a daily confrontation with death itself. Allied countermeasures and the decline. As U-boats terrorized the Atlantic, the Allies raced to counter the threat. Convoys were reintroduced, now more heavily guarded. In response to night surface attacks, Allied ships were equipped with radar to detect U-boats in the dark. When U-boats dived, sonar allowed ships to track them underwater. Air coverage increased with long-range bombers fitted with radar and depth charges, turning the vast ocean into a deadly trap for submarines. New weapons like the Hedgehog, a forward-throwing spigot mortar, allowed ships to attack submerged subs more effectively than traditional depth charges. Hunter-killer groups, comprised of destroyers and aircraft carriers, began seeking out and destroying U-boats proactively. By 1943, the tide had turned. May of that year, dubbed Black May, saw 43 U-boats destroyed in a single month. Loss rates became unsustainable, and the once feared predator became increasingly vulnerable prey. Technological innovation, coordination, and intelligence broke the back of the U-boat campaign, shifting control of the Atlantic to the Allies and ensuring vital supply lines remained open. The U-boat war was one of desperation, innovation, and staggering human cost. With a casualty rate of over 70%, service aboard a U-boat was among the deadliest assignments in military history. Yet despite the danger, these submariners continued their mission deep beneath the waves. This story barely scratches the surface. Countless daring missions and haunting fates remain to be explored in the saga of Germany's deadly underwater fleet.